Welcome to From the Concession Stand, a look at the best offerings coming straight from streaming. I'm your host, Brian Coddington, joined by my lovely co-host, Laine. Hey, Laine.
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
It's going. It's going. You know, I'm rocking the Batman stuff today. I mean, that's like an all the everyday thing. But yeah, I got the cuff, I got the shirt. I actually had my mail guy. He stopped by because we were out on our porch the other day, and he looked at my shirt. He's like, "Dude, that's an awesome shirt. I have that same style with Star Wars and everything." So,
Oh, that's
what's new
awesome.
about your mail person? Yeah?
That's awesome. I always try to make sure I know the male person's name. My original one retired. And then when the new guy came, I was like, hey, I wanted to make sure like we were right.
Person.
I don't know. Like you need to be friends with the male person. They like have a lot of say over your place and
they'll be like,
whether you get your mail.
I see you've got some ED medication today. Congratulations.
Oh my God.
Here you go.
My real BFF is the garbage guy though, because he takes everything so nice. Oh no. I'm so like, I think it's because I apologize most of the time because I'm like, I'm sorry. That's so heavy or that there's so much stuff. I'm so sorry.
No, I think my garbage people actually hate my guts.
Why?
Because keep in mind, like I have 4 kids, and basically every garbage time, we never have just like 2 bags.
Oh, see, yeah, I don't.
I see people on my street, they got 2 bags here or 1
Yeah,
bag
that's
here.
me.
I'm like, there's no way in hell I am ever gonna have 2 bags. It's never gonna happen.
You have 4
There's
kids.
always 10 bags. Okay? There's always 10 bags. They're always half open and half closed because, unfortunately, like we'll ask the kids to close them and they won't. On top of that, we have like animals that go through our bags. So when I put them out at night, I know that an animal is literally sitting outside of my house going, "Hey, he's putting it out now. Let's get it." And so sure enough, every morning when the garbage guy comes, it's already torn to shit. Okay? On top of that, when we first moved in, so we came, like, when this is the first house that Lauren and I have jointly, like, lived in together. Like, she had her previous house at another place. But when we moved in, we were like, oh, okay, we're in the city now. Let's go get a garbage bin. So we got the heavy ones. And in the city of Pittsburgh, unfortunately, you have to pay attention to what kind of garbage bin you get.
Mm-hmm.
So we put out these heavy garbage bins, and sure enough, the same garbage guys were like, hey, these aren't regulation. We can't take them. So we already started off on a bad foot with the garbage man. Okay? So, and this is a perpetual thing. He just literally looks at me, and they're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Big shout to Waste Management. They supplied us with the cans, but they also own them, which is totally fine with me. It's a huge can. And then big shout out to Chris, my garbage guy, who takes everything and sometimes has blue hair, sometimes has green hair, which makes me trust him more.
I would trust that.
He's like our age. He's like our age.
No, the garbage people. I think they literally just look at me just like, yeah, you're the one with all the shit. Literally all the shit.
It's not your fault. You have so many kids.
I can't help it. But anyway, after we spend, I don't know, the past 3-4 minutes talking about garbage cans.
Listen, it's important stuff.
This week we are diving into the world of Fear Street. Okay, on Netflix. This is a little bit of a late review because we know it's been out for a little bit. But Fear Street on Netflix.
Yay!
That's cool.
I'm so excited.
You're excited because
I have so many things to say. I'm so happy.
I have so many things to say too. But I have a feeling this is going to be a good episode because just right off the bat, I hated it.
Mm-hmm.
Lauren, Laine, I think you liked it.
I loved it. I loved it. No, I absolutely effing loved it. I think I saw all 3 of them twice. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
100%. And well, we can talk about that. I mean, we can definitely talk about that.
Yeah. So Fear Street's an interesting kind of series because one, I was aware of this because I was a fan of the Goosebump books back in the day, which I think just about every person was. And this was kind of like the books that you graduated to once you were like, I don't know, 13. When you got to 13, you got into Fear Street.
Right.
Because the Fear Street books, for the most part, they had, more adultish situations in there. The gore was pretty much grisly. These books were, for the most part, geared towards teenagers.
And when I was 8 years old, I think I was 8 years old, I would like try to sneak these because my mom thought they were like trashy. And she was
She thought
like,
they were trashy.
yeah, she wouldn't like me reading them. So it was like these ones and like Sweet Valley High. She didn't like me
Oh,
reading
yeah.
them like real young. And so I was like, if I read them at the library, she'll never know. Such a nerd. Oh my goodness, such
Yeah,
a nerd.
I'll be honest with you, I never really got into the Fear Street books just because, like, for me, Goosebumps was kind of my outlet for the longest time, and then I kind of jumped to movies, so I was watching, like, all the horror movies at the time, and then also reading Clive Barker. So, like, if you read Clive Barker stuff, that's a whole other level compared to Fear Street. So I kind of jumped to the grown-up horror. But a lot of people, like my wife was into Fear Street. She read the books too.
Hmm.
And it's funny, when we were watching this yesterday, because I'm terrible, she was like, oh, yeah, I read this. I'm like, how much of this is from the book? She's like, a little bit here and there. There's some crossover there, but that was one of the things was just, how does this compare to the books?
Well, and that's one of the things that I thought was interesting is that I expected it to draw in some way directly, and honestly, the only real parallel I could really say is probably the book Lights Out, because that draws the parallel to the second movie, which takes place in Camp Nightwing, which is the camp bit.
Right.
And the camp movie, and they actually filmed that one last. I thought that was interesting, that they filmed that one last, even though it's the second installment in this three-part series. So this is on Netflix, by the way. The Fear Street thing is on Netflix. It was 3 movies. It still is 3 movies, but they were released a few weeks apart, and now they're all out, and that's why we waited, because we wanted them all to be out.
Yep.
So Jens could see them. This is going to be spoilery as shit, because I can't live any other way.
They've been out for a while, so it's okay.
Yeah, been out for like a month.
Yeah.
But Lights Out, I would say would be like kind of the strongest parallel, just because it's like camp and camp. I think the main counselor, I want to say her name was Holly in that. I looked
Which
this
one?
up.
The one for Shadyside?
For Lights Out.
The book.
In the book. And so the Shadyside, Shadyvale thing, I feel like that mythology they just really created for the movies, and I thought that was such a cool idea. So basically, in the movies, you have the town of Shadyside, which is taken from the books, and then you have Shadyvale,
Sunnyvale,
or Sunnyvale, excuse me,
Yeah.
And Sunnyvale. These two towns, one that's very prosperous, and then one that is very not. And I thought that the book series was very rich and white. And I thought
it was
that
the 90s. So
and I thought the movie series did a really nice job of kind of like hinting at a few, socioeconomic issues without being overly preachy, I thought.
They were a little preachy.
They were a little
They
preachy.
were a little preachy.
They were a little preachy, but people are stupid, so like sometimes you do have to like, hey, things are hard for people sometimes.
I get that.
Honestly,
so. Like a lot of the whole, like in the first movie, you have this whole bullshit between the two towns, and it kind of literally erupts but in the high schools, and it just reminded me of my high school experience, which I try to block that out on a daily basis. Because most high schools have some sort of rival. That's kind of what everyone does. It's usually a bullshit rival. For my high school, it was North Allegheny. So,
okay.
And it was a constant thing of, oh, fuck those North Allegheny people, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I don't care. Like, whatever.
Right.
So, like, when I'm seeing this at this, what the hell was it, vigil that was being offered by Sunnyvale, and you see this fight break out between, the football players of Sunnyvale and the combination of football players and band people and cheerleaders from Shadyside, I'm like, this is stupid. I mean,
Well,
that
well,
was
what's
just me.
interesting, what I think is interesting about it now, that being said, for my high school, when you were saying that, I was like, oh, who was our rival? But I went to the Sunnyvale in this situation.
Oh, okay. There you go.
But
There you go.
I was from a very small town, and my school, we were like the preppy school, but like I was in a very small town. I went to Clarion
Yeah.
area high school, and it was my school was like the snobby school because it was in an actual town and not like a cornfield. So
Right.
I mean the bar was low, but it was a very nice school. My 7th grade year had been like completely remodeled and very nice. But
See, I went to Seneca Valley, and at Seneca Valley,
oh,
basically,
okay.
you had a combination of Cranberry people, which was where I lived, and then you also had Zealy people and Harmony people,
Oh,
and
okay.
those people honestly would kind of lived out in the sticks. So
Sure.
there was kind of an amalgamation, and they apparently all viewed North Allegheny, which was for the most part Wexford,
Oh, okay.
as like the preppy people, as the
Sure.
Sunnyvale. Like they had a McDonald's in their cafeteria, which I don't even know if that was
What?
true or not.
That's
I
just
don't know if that was.
legend.
I think that's just legend.
Hmm.
But yeah, so like that was the mentality, and like when I saw that scene in Fear Street Part 1, I'm just like, this just reminds me of that, and
Well,
you know,
well, if you'll remember though, so the opening scene of the first Fear Street movie,
yeah,
is actually really cool. It's a really cool action sequence. So
I did like that. I
the
did like
first movie
that.
takes place in 1994.
Yep.
And the first character, and they're at a B Dalton, which I totally forgot existed, by the way.
My
Makes
wife cracked up the
me
minute
too.
the woman said, "Welcome to B Dalton." She's like, "Ha, B Dalton."
Right? I tell Lauren I was right there with her. I
Yeah.
died. I was like, "Oh my God, B Dalton." I couldn't believe it.
I
So,
completely forgot about B Dalton.
right, there's an action sequence where the girl's working late. We get a little bit of this socioeconomic rift where she's working because she's trying to make up some money for the family,
Yep.
because the parents are not providing as much as they can. And it was a little preachy, but not sanctimonious. It like towed that line, I thought.
It wasn't like turn to the camera and say rich people are bad. It wasn't anything like that.
But
But it
the
just
older
felt
the
preachy.
older I get, the more I want capitalism to burn. So
Oh, I think that's most
I'm like
people.
with it. I'm with it. But anyway, so this girl's killed by a classmate, a shady side classmate. So
Yeah.
this is like the scandal. And what is happening when this fight breaks out is that there's a forced vigil that both schools had to attend
Yep.
because these two shady side kids died. And the Sunnyvale students are saying these disparaging things that like these shady side kids deserve to die. So I think that the reason that the riot breaks out is kind of more understandable because they're saying like, oh, these kids are pieces of shit and they deserve to die. I can see why people would be mad about that.
Yeah, but I don't know. For me, it just kind of felt like that was gonna happen whether you had that or not. Like honestly, there was a history of this sort of
Well,
shit
yeah,
happening where
I don't
stuff
think it
breaks
took
out.
much,
But it just like I literally got flashbacks of
I don't know,
football
Brian.
players at Seneca Valley going on and on and on about North Allegheny. I'm just like, no one
I
gives
don't know,
a
Brian.
shit.
I think you're bringing some of your high school baggage to
Probably am.
this viewing
Probably am. Probably
experience.
am.
See, I
Probably
don't
am. Although
know.
to be fair, in '94 I was like 9 years old,
Oh my
so
God, I was in 4th grade. I
so
was in 4th grade in
none of this stuff
'94.
real. I was
So
like, I don't really
this
care.
happened
So
later for us. High
yeah,
school was
yeah,
later for us.
yeah.
Thankfully, I sometimes I feel old as
Thankfully.
shit, and this is making me feel young. It makes me feel good. So,
Oh yeah.
so we have our main character, Dina, who has just quit band, but she comes along on this journey because
Hmm.
she has to give some stuff back to her ex, Sam. And I liked the misdirection here, and then I liked how it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
But her ex, Sam, happens to not be the football player that we are expecting it to be, but rather
Yep.
the cheerleader, the
Yep.
blonde cheerleader that the football player has been groping this entire time. Uh,
Yeah, that was really like weird.
No, I thought it was good misdirection, honestly. the movies are so gay, and it makes me so happy.
Yeah.
They were so gay. But like it was so cool because it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't like
it was a big deal for the parents because obviously
right.
at the end of the first film, you know, Sam's mother's watching
Oh,
Sam like
Sam's mom hates
visually
Dina.
make out with Dina,
Yeah,
and you
hates
can
it.
just see her face is just like, oh yeah, she
Her head's gonna
very
explode.
much is
Sam's mom is the
yeah,
worst.
gonna explode. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big deal to her, but no, what happens is in the course of the story, they don't make it a big deal. It's not a
No.
big plot point as far as the storytelling goes, because you can tell sometimes when stories use that for shock value
Yes.
or use that to be a huge like character arc or a big element. And honestly, a lot of what I think was also or what could have been the problem is just that like Dina's from the wrong side of the tracks. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like
Yep.
obviously a lot of it was part of the problem, but and when I say like they were so gay, like I mean that in the best way possible because
Right.
I think that it was so positive that this story had a romantic twist in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
It had like this really nice relationship at the core of it that was two girls,
Yeah.
and it wasn't a big deal.
Well, that's honestly been something I've been seeing in a lot of TVs and movies nowadays. Is that it's no longer a shock value thing. It's more or less,
Right.
does this make sense for the story? And in this
Right.
regard, and I mean, I mentioned that I did not really like Fear Street. In this regard, this was good. Like I thought
Yeah.
it was good. I thought it was handled really well.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't, for me, I was not like thrown in my face and anything like that. It was just like, yeah, these two women have a relationship.
Yeah.
No big
Well,
deal.
and two, at the same time where I think the socioeconomic stuff was preachy and in your face, this wasn't. And
No, no.
it wasn't self-congratulatory either. Like, look how progressive we are. Look how good we are.
Yeah,
You know, that wasn't
was
it either.
very much done like, yeah, this is a real thing, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's funny because you have this perception that apparently only you know, gay relationships didn't happen in the 94 90 in the 90s, where clearly they did. Okay, but the media had basically just presented this whole view that didn't exist.
Well, I mean, we'll get to this in a minute, but I mean, those relationships have existed for a very long time.
Exactly.
Well, have you ever seen that meme where it's like an old illustration of like, I don't know, I can't remember if it's the same sex, like male or female, but they're like literally like entangled with each other, and historians say they were really good friends.
But
I mean-
it's just funny because a lot of media from that time period, a lot of TV shows, a lot of movies, they never ever just displayed that. And I think it was mostly like people were like, oh yeah, well those sorts of relationships didn't exist until, you know, the Ellen show. Like it's like,
Right. Well, and it
no,
was used
they've
for
been
shock
around,
value,
it's used for
and
shock
you know,
value.
yeah.
But
And I mean,
I
I'm
thought
not.
this was handled really well. Thought it was
Yeah,
handled
me
really
too.
well.
And even better than I think usually like a lot of like recent, even more recent shows like where that are like too self-congratulatory because like, you know, I know that a lot of things that like Pretty Little Liars did like was in its own way like somewhat groundbreaking, but then just like totally derailed itself and ended up being such a disappointment overall.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I'm Marlene King. Yeah, you failed. You failed. But I think that if we once we talk about like the third part as well, you know, the core of the
Yep.
story and everything, I think is really interesting. So basically, what they end up discovering is so after the fight, I don't even think they end up having the game, right? Like they just send everybody
They
home.
don't even have the game. There's a giant fight, and then there's a bus chase.
Right. And
For
so
reasons.
there's so Sam and her boyfriend get into a like a car accident kind of based on the actions of Dina and her friends, and they veer off the road I think on Route 5. I don't know why I remember that, but I think it's on Route 5. Like I said, I saw it twice. And they and so Sam has like a bloody nose, and she is like leaning on the ground and she bleeds on the ground.
Yeah.
And she has like this weird vision. and all this crazy stuff starts happening to these people that are part of it. So there's Dina and Sam, and then she has a friend,
Kate.
Kate. I thought it was Kate, and then the other guy that was friends with them, the two of them, Kate and him, dealt drugs. Was
it Simon? I think it was Simon.
See, you guys get to see me do the research
Yeah,
in real time. Isn't that fun? Dang it. I have part 2 up. Damn. Let me see real quick.
Yeah,
I'm going to make sure I have it right.
Dina's brother, Josh.
Yep, Josh was her little brother, Dina's little brother, and I liked his character a lot.
I liked him.
Yep, Kate, and then I'm looking. Hold on a second.
It was Simon.
Simon.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. Okay. I just wanted to be sure. And then I just wanted to be sure. But so the number of them, like, they kind of go in their separate ways. You know, Kate has to babysit. You know, Dina's still all pissed off about Sam. But throughout the course of the evening, you know, they have the beginning of what's a very long night.
Yeah. And ultimately what ends up happening is these killers from the past, that because apparently Shadyside is known as like the murder capital of the world, all these killers start happening, all these sorts of, and they're not like accidents or anything like that. They're actually like masked serial killers, like straight out of movies, or they're psychopaths or something like that. And they all start converging on this group. And at first we're led to believe like they're going to kill everybody. But ultimately we find out that in that accident, Sam had bled onto the corpse of Sarah Fear, who was known as like the town witch, and she was hung for the witch, and that's the whole curse. The whole curse of the town is because of her.
And Sarah Fear, F-I-E-R.
See.
And do you guys know?
Play on words.
I should not admit this, but it took me forever to figure out F-I-E-R, Fear Street.
Oh, you're terrible. I got it immediately.
Well, it took me forever to figure out that WandaVision was just Wanda and Vision put together. So
no,
I'm serious. I like made fun of myself in my group chat with my friends. I was like, 2 film degrees, guys, and it took me this long to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yay. Yay. Yeah.
That's something you don't say on the podcast.
Whatever. I feel safe with you all. I missed you all.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, they're coming after Sam basically. That's they want her blood. And the people who get terrorized are people who aren't Sam, are people who have that blood on her. Like Dina has blood on her shoe. Simon has blood on his shirt. You know,
and Kate got it on her too.
Yeah. And so like these killers, which I gotta say, this is one of my biggest criticisms already with this particular entry into it, is that they set up these rules. And the rules aren't always followed. Okay? So the rules of this...
It's a little confusing, I think, in the beginning to understand, the rules. You know what I mean?
So the rules are that the killers will ignore anyone who doesn't have that blood or has that blood on them. Okay? So that makes sense. Okay, I totally get it. But there is a sequence at the hospital where... the fake boyfriend, I say fake boyfriend because clearly Sam and Dina are the relationship. So the fake boyfriend gets killed. Yeah. Okay. On top of that, a doctor gets killed, a nurse gets killed. These people, they don't have any blood on them. So they're already not following the rules. A doctor wouldn't necessarily have the blood from Sam on him because clearly they're going to clean up afterwards, right? They're not going to have that.
Unless they drew blood, unless they took samples of her blood and maybe had it on them.
But that's really
I mean, you shouldn't have to explain it that much.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, for what we're given, I mean, you could go that far into it, but for what we're given in terms of the rules, that's clearly a violation of the movie rules that have been set up. So that's part of the reason why I don't like it, is you set up these rules and then you purposely break them.
That's true.
And
that's true.
They literally have a dialogue scene between the whole group, and they're like, "Yeah, it didn't even come after me. It ran right past." It's like, but what about the doctor? What about the nurse?
Right.
What about the boyfriend?
True. That's a good point.
And that's a thing. I'm like, this is sloppy writing. That's
maybe, and you know, and you never know like what has happened though, because there could have been a reason, and then in the editing room, it just for time,
yeah,
you never
yeah,
know.
and I get that, but if I'm writing a story and I'm putting in something that's very much a hard and fast rule,
Right. No,
which
I
a
agree. I
lot of this
agree.
is that it's not a you have a gun and then you suddenly don't see it the next thing.
No, I agree.
This is a pretty solid rule of the movie and takes up a good
Mm-hmm.
chunk of the plot. Like you
Mm-hmm.
actually have scenes further down the line where they're literally marking themselves with Sam's
Yeah.
blood,
No, you're right.
and I'm like, that's a core tenet of the rule. What
That
happened
makes
with the
sense.
hospital? So
That makes sense.
not to belabor a point, but I'm just saying
No, I think
that's
that
one of
makes
the
sense though.
things.
And if that's one of the problems that you had, like I could see that.
I have
One
a
of the
couple
things that
problems with it, but that was one of them.
one of the things that I really liked about it, and I think that this is something with horror that, if I may,
Sure,
Brian,
go
that I
ahead,
think that I think that that I
please.
think you sometimes don't enjoy, especially when the genre kind of like goes in this direction.
Yeah,
I think when it's really campy and when it really leans in and when it's very ironic, I think that's sometimes a line that you don't enjoy. Because
not
you know, like
necessarily, not
I mean,
necessarily.
but I always think about how much you don't like Scream, and Scream is so campy and so ironic and
I
leans in so
I
hard.
there's a core reason why I don't like Scream. It has absolutely nothing to do with the camp level.
It's because people liked it and you were mad.
No, it is
No,
because
just kidding.
it, in my opinion, Scream was an inflection point in horror that led to the downfall of the
Agreed.
genre. That
No,
is
I know
why
what
I
you
don't
mean.
like it. It's not necessarily the movie itself. The
Right.
movie itself, I don't mind.
Right.
There's a lot of good I find from it, and I also see a lot of what paid off from New Nightmare, because New Nightmare was pretty much the proving grounds for Wes
Hmm.
Craven to take into Scream. And I
Right.
love New Nightmare. I'm one of the rare people that will look at New Nightmare and go, "Oh yeah, I totally buy into this world." I like the fact that we're seeing the
I enjoyed
actors,
New Nightmare too, actually, and
but
I'm not super into the franchise, but I like that one.
a lot of core Krueger fans hate New Nightmare, but
I could see
me,
that.
I really like it,
Hmm.
just because it does kind of go behind the scenes. So
Hmm.
I think though, what my issue is with Scream is just that the commercialization of horror kind of changed with Scream. It led to
Hmm.
kind of movies like I Know What You Did Last Summer, and then kind of
Why
led
don't you like
into.
that movie, Brian? Is it
Here's the
because that
thing.
movie's hot, flaming garbage? That
Yeah.
movie's so bad, but I love it so much. Oh my God.
No,
It's
no,
so bad.
it's so bad.
It
It's
is, but I
really
love
bad.
it so much. It's
Really
so
bad.
bad.
Really bad. There's not enough time to go
I
over
know.
why I
Well,
don't
because it's
like
not
it.
ironic at all how bad it is. But what I think is nice about the Fear Street, this in installments, like these installments, is
Yep.
like they have that nice line of like 90s irony, where it's like, okay, it's from, it's from the 90s, it's past,
Hmm.
and everything, but they have like a nice storyline, and they are doing throwbacks from the past, especially in the second and third installments, where it's historical. In the third one takes place in
Yeah.
1666,
I mean,
so I
I get what they're doing, and in reviews of this from what I've seen, a lot of people like the fact that these films, at least the first two, um, really did kind of deconstruct those specific kinds of genres of horror.
hmm
So, like
hmm
in '94, you're clearly getting the Scream horror. You're getting that '90s slasher. That's
it
what
was
we're
very
seeing.
and I will say too, for anyone, if you're still with us, like, and you don't mind spoilers, and you haven't seen it, like, they were quite gory, I thought, like, not
They were.
not bad,
No, not bad.
but
But
like
I was
suggestive and scarier than I expected.
I was surprised by the level of gore because this is a
Hmm.
Netflix thing.
Well,
So
I find Netflix surprises me sometimes when, like, I watch something and I'm like, oh, the F word's in this a lot, or oh, this is gorier than I
yeah.
expected. But one of the things that I really liked, and I found this in the second one a lot, with Tommy,
Hmm.
when he would go to kill somebody. And I had to think about Graduate School, Brian, with like the light you don't turn on.
Yep.
It was so cool because you could see him like swing the axe and you knew what he was doing, but you didn't have to see the axe land to know what was happening. And I
Yeah.
thought that that was really smart. You know, you could see what he was doing, and you didn't have to see this gratuitous, you know, skull split. I mean, we saw some skull splitting, don't get me wrong.
No, he didn't.
But
Well, he kills like literal children.
right, but we
and,
didn't but
and
we
we don't need to
didn't
see it.
watch him kill the
No,
children. And I
no.
was like, you know what? Well done, you guys. We didn't
Yeah.
need to see it, and you just let us like
Yeah.
kind of imagine it. And I
And
thought that that was cool. It was a
that
nice mix
in
of the
that
two.
yeah, in that regard, yeah, that was definitely good. I like a lot of callbacks to, like, with the Tommy character, especially, you know, the way that he is chopping open doors is honestly a pull from The Shining.
Oh yeah.
100%. You have that whole whip pan thing with him, you know, lunging the axe into a door, and that happens also in part 1 as well. So I mean, you know, you're getting a lot of callbacks into this. I think at some point though, that's to its detriment.
Do you think it was too referential?
I think too much. I think it was, and honestly, with a movie centered around a year, that's gonna happen.
Sure.
The first one's called 1994. The next one's called 1978, and the following one's 66. So clearly, when you're surrounding everything around a certain time frame, there is a danger that the self-referential stuff gets in the way. And I felt that not so much with the 78 one, but definitely with the 94. I felt that there were times when that self-referential stuff got too much.
Sure.
One of the big things that I hated about this, and I'll be the first to say, I think we talked about it before we started recording.
Yeah.
I hated the music.
Yeah,
Hated
and
the music.
well, I liked the choices, but then when we talked about it earlier, like I thought most of them were pretty good, but then you did mention there were a couple that were anachronistic.
So
You're
I've seen
right.
this from a couple people online that I'm friends with and who also watch this, and they were like, you know what would be nice is if maybe the music choices actually match the year and time frame. So for instance, in 94, and there's my cat. So if you're on the video, you can see Selena popping up.
Hi, Selena. Hi, baby.
So, you know, with 94, there were a few songs that, and they pulled a lot of songs that, like, I'm a fan of. So if you're pulling songs that I'm a fan of, a lot of, you know, alternative music, a lot of metal, I'm going to want to know are you actually pulling from the right year? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So there were a couple in there. A majority of them were 94. I actually I had my phone up. I'm like, all right, this song was it okay? 94, 92. All right, makes sense.
Yeah, and I looked up some of them too, and they were fine. But you know what? I didn't even think about that Garbage song, Brian.
Yeah,
You're right.
The song from Garbage was from 95. They had a song from I think it was from Prodigy, and that was 96. So, you know, these are things like my wife was like,
Prodigy.
well, it's not.
Wow.
Yeah, my wife was like, well, it's
throwback.
not that big of a deal. And I'm like, yeah, it is a big deal. It is a big deal because if you build this whole world around what people are listening to, and it's diegetic sound, and it's part of the scene,
Yeah.
and you're jumping to something that hasn't even been released yet, it's going to stick out. Now, the average viewer is not going to notice it. They're not going to care, probably. But I'm a filmmaker, so clearly I am going to care.
Well, yeah, and too, you know, you teach a lot of this stuff, and audio is one of those things that's really important that a lot of people discount. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, the Garbage song is one, and then and I'm looking this up now.
Yeah.
More Human Than Human by White Zombie wasn't released
that was
until
95.
Yep, and then Your Woman by White Town wasn't even released until 97.
Yeah.
And then
Because
Machine
I
Head,
remember being a fan of that song when it came out. I was like, yeah.
and then Machine Head by Bush was on their 94 album, but it wasn't released as a single until 96.
So I get it, but at the same time, you cannot put music in that isn't part of that time period if you're building an entire movie around a time period. So like that's part of the problem, at least that I found. I also found that the music, I got what it was, why it was in there. I thought it was too much. There were times when literally you were jumping between different music tracks, almost like someone was in the edit saying, "Oh yeah, we got to throw another '90s hit in there,"
Yeah.
It didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. It wasn't really motivated by anything other than just how many 90s hits can we throw into this movie.
I kind of chalked it up to Dina being so damn moody.
Yeah, but it wasn't
She had
motivated by
so
that.
many feelings.
Yeah, like I
She
think
had feelings all the time. She had so many
but
feelings.
I think actually in the first time we're in the high school and we have that hallway scene, I think they jumped between 3 different songs. And it was like based on who was coming in. I'm like, that just seems stupid.
That
like,
makes sense.
I'm sorry, I hate to say it just seems really, really stupid.
Wow.
And it distracted me from the story. You know, and if I'm paying attention to that sort of thing, I'm not paying attention to what the story is. In terms of acting, it was okay.
Oh, really? Just okay?
Yeah.
I thought that Dina was amazing. I thought she was so good, especially in the later episodes. So she was played by Kiana Madeira.
Yeah.
And when she played Sarah Fear, oh my gosh, I thought she was amazing. Like, I mean, she was like pulling out that like old accent and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, she was great. And honestly, the guy who played Sheriff Good, he was really good too when he was playing
which
he
one,
was
the
Solomon.
older one or the younger one?
When he played Solomon.
Oh, okay.
The older one. He played Solomon like in the end. Ashley Zuckerman.
Yeah.
Is his name. He was Nick Good, so he was the sheriff in the modern ones, but he was Solomon in the other ones. Or in the last one. I thought he was terrific because I honestly I was like, with this long hair, like I really can't even tell this is the same person because he had that like brogue down pat. Like I thought they were great. I mean, not everybody was great, but I thought they were great.
I guess for me, it felt like our core group was good. But everyone else around him, like, I mean, I could not stand the Simon character. I just felt like he was
very much a trope. I mean, and he didn't last long. You know, he didn't last long.
I thought that Kate was interesting, mainly because she comes off as the cheerleader, but she's also a drug dealer at the same time.
Well, but again, she's ambitious and she wants to leave Shadyside.
Yeah.
So, she's only dealing drugs to leave town.
I got that. And I think
heart of gold, I guess.
If I had to pick one of my favorite, I would say it was Kate, who was my favorite out of, the leads in either of these films because she. I
had a soft spot for Josh. I love me an underdog, and he like really leveled up because he was like kind of a weenie when the movie started, and he like bossed up like by the end, especially just even of the first movie, he like bossed up, and then by the end of the whole thing, like he was like really. He was with it.
By the way, I'm pretty
end.
sure AOL Instant Messenger was not like the way they designed it.
That seemed way too modern. I will agree. That seemed way too modern.
I told my wife
that's not 94.
That is
1999.
It did not. Right there.
I bet it looked so bad in 94. They were like, we cannot do this. No one's gonna like even be able to make sense of it. Yeah. Honestly, I agree.
But yeah, so I thought that the acting of a few of them were okay. But like, especially in the 78 one, I hated all of them. I really didn't like any of them. I think person who played Max in Stranger Things, I liked her.
Oh yeah. The second one. In the second one, she what's her real name? Let's get her real name. I'm gonna grab it.
Important to get real names here.
She Sadie Zink.
Yeah.
Or Sadie Sink. So she played Ziggy in the second movie. So we're at Camp Nightwing for this one. So she's Ziggy Berman, and then Emily Rudd played Cindy Berman. So they're sisters in this. And then Ziggy Berman's played by is it Jillian Jacobs? Jillian Jacobs plays the older version. And it's interesting because I think it was supposed to be like I don't know if it was supposed to be a fake out where you don't know which sister is the one that lives because a C. Berman is the one that survives.
Right.
But I thought it was pretty obvious because the adult C. Berman, her dog is named Major Tom. Yeah. And then she's Ziggy as a kid. So I was like, okay, that's pretty clear who lives. Like, it's obviously her.
I kind of was a dead giveaway there.
The two... the singer references. What the hell?
David Bowie.
Yes, thank you. Oh my God.
Yeah.
See, I like it when we record at night because I'm not stupid at night. In the morning, I'm stupid.
It's okay. I don't know, but with the 78 one, it just felt like we were getting, what the hell's a Friday the 13th? And
Well, yeah, I
the
mean, it did
level
feel
of
like Friday the
acting
13th, and
was
like
Friday the 13th.
it did feel a little like that, especially like so the mean girl at camp, like she wasn't a very good actress.
No.
I felt like the foil, I guess, to Cindy, that used to be her friend Alice.
She was annoying.
She was
I didn't
well,
like her.
she was very much a stereotype, I thought
Yeah.
too. Like, just like she was a very
Why aren't we
stereotypical
friends
character.
anymore? It's like, okay. Like
I'm just gonna be mean to you.
I guess it's for me, like, most of these characters I didn't care for. So, and if I'm the audience and I don't care, like,
It's a problem.
It's a problem. I didn't care
Yeah.
when any of them died. I was like, all right, whatever. Because they
Yeah.
just seemed and they acted like stereotypes. And I know that's
Right.
what they were going for. But,
Right.
like, how many times do we need to see, this camper having sex and that whole thing? It's like, I don't care.
Yeah. Well, for
You
the
know?
second one, like I said, I thought that it was very artfully done,
Yeah.
with the murder.
No, the
Because
murder parts were good. I like that. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, the acting itself.
the acting wasn't as good. It wasn't as good.
From Sadie
I didn't
Sink,
think.
I really didn't care. I mean,
Yeah, it wasn't as
even,
good. Well,
even the sister was like, like Cindy was like, "Oh, well, you're a monster" when she's talking
she was
to
kind of whiny.
Ziggy. I'm like,
She was kind of whiny for sure.
it's like,
But
you're gonna die.
I thought
Like,
I did think young Nick Good was. I thought he was pretty good. He didn't have a huge part, but I thought he was pretty good. The one that played the young.
I thought it was nice to see that character, not a complete dick, because clearly
Yeah.
in *94 he's a complete dick.
Oh, and yeah, I should say this too. I wonder if one of the reasons why I liked this so much is, okay, so I was hanging out with a number of my really good friends that day. And especially one of my friends who lives really far away. And she was in town. And the three of us went and we had like a pool day. And we came inside because we knew it was going to storm. And we watched the first one during this like lightning thunderstorm, to end. I mean, it was perfect. And we're like eating candy. I mean, it felt like a sleepover. You know what I mean? Like the conditions were like perfect. And my friends were saying like, okay, the sheriff's name is Good. He's clearly evil. And I was like, I don't know, guys. He seems like an okay guy. I was so wrong.
If we follow horror movie rules, he's the sheriff and his last name is Good. So of course he's going to be the asshole.
I was so naive. I was like, I don't know, maybe he's okay.
I mean,
and I don't even really like cops. Let's be real.
This whole series has been, meta in tackling kind of the genre tropes. Of course, he's going to be the real evil behind it. I kind of already knew that going in. I'm like, yeah, it's going to happen. But yeah.
So the second one, I thought but it was that classic like camp kind of thing. And I was telling my friends too about Final Girls, which takes place in camp. And that's a terrific movie. I think if you're okay with like a deeply ironic, very meta premise.
Yeah,
it's a very interesting. Yeah,
I gotta check that one out.
Oh, you have to. It's super good. Super good.
I checked out Happy Death Day. I didn't completely hate it, by the way.
Oh my God, did you watch it?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, we can't do it on air because we have to talk about this, but we're talking about that later. Oh my God. Yeah. That's like a comfort movie for me because I'm a very messed up human being.
I did not hate it. I was okay.
Yeah, it's one of my comfort movies because there's something broken inside of me. But yeah, and then the third installment of Fear Street takes place in 1666 because basically in the background of all these movies, we've had the witch, and the witch is supposed to be causing all these deaths. And what happens is every year, someone becomes possessed by the witch, kills others, and it just kind of slides Shadyside deeper and deeper into this mire to, deep in the poverty. No one gets out. Everybody just keeps, suffering under this, these circumstances. And then Sunnyvale just keeps getting better and better and better. And so they blame the witch. And what happened was they say that Sarah Fear, not donated, but like sacrificed her hand to the devil in this like deal. Right. Yeah. And so they, one of the things that happened at the camps, in the camp story, is they found her missing hand. Yep. And they knew where it was, So C. Berman, Ziggy, she knew where it was. It was under the specific tree at Camp Nightwing, which is now the Shadyside Mall, which is so 90s and amazing.
That's
I thought.
amazing.
I thought all the mall stuff was amazing.
Yeah.
I loved it. And
especially when all the malls now are dying. So
I know, like literally dying, like and just amazing commentary, I thought. But they find the hand, and so Dina goes to get the hand because they're in the first installment we lose some of our friends, especially Brian's beloved Kate. Her death was amazing. Just
the
crazy.
bread slicer. I was like, man.
I was like, they're not gonna. I was like, they're not gonna. I was like,
good job, movie. You killed your
Right?
main characters. I'm like,
I was like, I was like, I was like, no. I was like, it was so good. It was so good. But like gore, like I was surprised. But like again, a nice line of like just good gore.
Yeah.
But anyway, so but Sam's like, they thought that they solved it, but then Sam's like possessed, and she's just like, I don't know. She's like Linda Blairing all over the place. It's like pretty bad. And Dina's like, I'm going to save you, even though you like stabbed me in the abdomen. And that never was followed up on.
Well, I got to say.
Dina has like a wound.
well, that's the thing too. And this kind of goes back to the rules. Okay. Mm-hmm. How many people in this movie got stabbed in vital organs, yet were limping around? Like,
listen,
walking around.
They make them different in Shadyside, Brian. They just put some duct tape on it and have a smoke and call it a day.
They don't do that. That's not how it works. She got stabbed in the abdomen. We're jumping forward. What? Maybe by the time we get to, the end of 1666. What? 4 hours? 5 hours?
It's totally how it works.
So she would have been dead from bleeding.
She has hallucinated about it for like 7 hours. It's fine.
So again, horror movie rules, not following them.
Anyway, so cool. But they find the hand of Sarah Fier, and then since the kids during this car accident had found Sarah Fier's body, Dina
connect them.
Unites the hand with the body, and then has, like I said, this like 7-hour hallucination, which I mean, it must have been like a 7-hour hallucination. And we like go into the third movie of 1666. We get the story of Sarah Fier, the actual story of Sarah Fier, who is not a witch at all, who is also super gay. Yay! She's like in love with the pastor's daughter.
It's even worse than 1994 because they kill you back then.
Oh yeah, fuck that. That's
even worse.
So bad. Because Sarah Fier is in love with the pastor's daughter. It's like a whole thing, and this is where we see the beginning of like the goods and the fears. And this is, I think this is actually from the books, but I think it's reversed because I think the fears sacrifice the goods in the books. I think maybe I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, but I don't think it's like a huge thing in the books. I don't know. Anyway, but the basically the whole thing is like from olden times, and we see like the kind of like the beginning of what happens, and this strange stuff starts happening, and we do see and so the cast from all of the previous movies are now in 1666 as like almost like placeholders. And it's cool because you see like in reflections, we see Dina, but it's sometimes Sarah Fier, who's, this completely different person, but you can tell that Dina's having her experience. I thought that was really trippy and cool. I really liked that.
I mean,
I
you
thought
also
that was
could
neat.
take the other side and say that these people are also descendants of those people, so you can kind of go either way with it.
That's kind of neat. I didn't think about that, Brian.
A lot of movies will do that. They'll cast the same actor who was in present time, and then have them basically do a different role, like they're descended, their great grandfather.
Right, and in the Goods case, that was certainly the case, because Solomon Good was obviously like down to Nick Good. And so basically, and this was so interesting to me because we're blaming this this young woman, this witch, for all these bad things that have happened in this town, like all this time. And what it ends up being is this man has practiced witchcraft to try to get his land to be more prosperous. And the way that everything happens, he's the survivor and he's the one that tells the story.
Yeah.
And so he blames her for everything, and they have a struggle, and in the struggle, that's how she loses her hand.
Yeah.
She didn't do anything. She wasn't a witch. She didn't do any witchcraft. The only thing she was guilty of was being in love with the pastor's daughter.
Yep.
And all the strange stuff started happening. With the pastor, that's who the first sacrifice was that Solomon Good ended up putting on the wall. And he killed like all 12 of the children in the settlement.
Yeah.
That scene was so fucked up. Oh
yeah.
my God. It was scary. That was scary. There were some scenes that were scary. I watched the second two back to back because they both were out, and I watched them during the day, and I was kind of glad.
Yeah.
But
now,
I thought that the third one was really interesting.
It did a good job wrapping everything up. I think it kind of did what a third one should do, but
it was cool because I thought that they did a nice job of filming it and making it seem, from the past and everything, and then it had such a satisfying conclusion. I thought of shutting down the good line, the usage of neon like blacklight paint and mixing it with Sam's blood. I thought was really cool, and just finding out the truth I thought was really neat because. Especially at the very end of Sarah Fierce's story where she says, I am a witch because she did it to save her girlfriend's life.
Yeah.
Because she said it was just me. I bewitched, the daughter. I bewitched her. It was just me. Spare her.
Yeah.
And then she says, and then this is when she kind of puts on the curse. The truth is your curse, and I will haunt you. I will follow you. I will find you wherever you go. Yeah. And I thought that I'm getting like kind of like chills, like actually like as I like recount it because it was really powerful. I thought, and like I said, I really thought that the actress that played Dina was really good. I thought that she was very talented.
I think she was a highlight, especially in the third one.
And she's worked quite steadily since like 18, and I'd never seen her in anything before, but she's really good. But then I thought that the ending was really satisfying because of the final, I don't know, the boss fight, I guess, if you want to call it that, with
it is.
Then with Jillian Jacobs and with C. Berman and Josh, the little brother, and then they loop in the security guy. We never talked about the security guy, but he got in trouble a couple of times with with the sheriff, but the sheriff kept blaming him for everything and like planting things on him, and we find out obviously that Nick is Nick Good, the sheriff, is just a piece of shit and part of the the sacrifices that have been made, and that's why his brother's the mayor and all that stuff. But then the way to end the curse and to get Shadyside where it needs to be is to kill Nick Good, and so that's what Dina has to do, and in doing so she saves Sam, and it's cool because there's like a little news clip at the end saying that like Sunnyvale's like starting to turn under. And I loved at the very, very end how, Josh, her little brother, like breaks his arm and she makes him pancakes, and they're terrible. But but he's like, I'm not eating those. She's like, I made those with like ingredients and shit. And I thought that was so 90s because, like that was when convenience foods were really a thing, like, like bagel bites and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I just thought that was such a funny line. I made those with like ingredients and shit. I don't know why. That just cracked me up. But then too, because one of the problems I think, in their family was I think that the mom had left and the dad was having a really hard time with employment. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if you noticed at the very end, and it's really quick. I paused it actually to see it again. But at the end, when they go to school, at the very end of the movie, there's a Post-it that says, I have a job interview today. Be home for dinner. Don't order anything or don't cook or something like that. Like that he's going to take care of dinner. Right. Again, the tide's turning, Shadyside's turning around, like the parents are like kind of stepping up for their kids more. Like I thought that was like a really nice detail. But again, like you don't have to beat people over the head with it. I liked those subtler, finer details of seeing like a plot change or like things like move around. I thought that was really cool. And then at the end, she and Sam get to go, they go to where Sarah Fierce's like burial places and like, pay more homage to her and everything. And I just, that's how it like wraps up and everything with the third movie.
I can see why people like. For me, maybe it's because of the fact that I watch a lot of horror movies, and um, I just I could not really get into this series as a whole. I just couldn't. There were things that I'm like, okay, yeah, that's good here. The gore was a nice, refreshing thing to see that, because more
It
often
was
than
just
not,
well done.
especially for something that is, I would say, directed at young adults, because I think this was kind of for the most part directed at the same audience as the original Fear Street books. Um, I
I think
think,
for us though too, like definitely like the '90s throwbacks. They were
yeah,
like,
but at the
"Hey,
same
we see
time,
you. We see you, 30-year-olds."
like my stepson, he's 13. He liked this series.
Oh,
He
cool.
watched it. He liked the series. He watched all three of them, and I think for him, it's more or less like, oh yeah, the '90s were cool because everyone tells me the '90s are cool, and it's nostalgia's now a thing. Like back in our day, it was the '60s and '70s. Everyone was wearing fucking bell bottoms again, and
Yeah.
the big platform shoes. So like, it's the same sort of thing. At least kind of what
Yeah.
I've found. So he liked that. He liked the series all around. But like Lauren and I, we were watching. We're just like, this is not that great.
I don't know. I loved it. And maybe it's because like it felt like,
Yeah,
like that sleepover feel, like I
I
said, I
get
watched
that.
the first one
I
with my
get that.
friends and I don't know. And I don't really watch like a ton of horror, but this is the horror I like, where it's like, tongue in cheek, it's funny,
Yeah,
in parts, but like also just, also like, it was scarier than I expected, like, for a couple of my friends who don't have like a very strong stomach for this sort of thing, not the friends I watched the first one
yeah,
with, but other friends, I was like, I don't think you'll enjoy this.
yeah. No, I
Because
just
it
I
was a little
thought
more
that
than.
the gore part was a highlight because most movies nowadays try to appeal to the largest
Yeah, and they
spectrum of
really water
people,
it
and
down.
they water it down. But
Agreed.
this one especially felt like they did not do
It
that.
was genuine. I thought it was really
Yeah,
genuine. But
yeah.
yeah, no, I liked it too. And honestly, I don't know. I guess the global pandemic Lovato just like broke me inside because I can't watch anything like fluffy or fun or I don't I mean
No
like
fun things ever.
I started last year with like true crime,
Yeah,
like with Cold Case Files, with the new reboot of that, and then the new Unsolved Mysteries last year, and like
yeah.
just true crime out the ass last year. I can't watch anything like soothing or comforting. I'm broken. It's
You're
fine.
broken.
It's fine. I mean, the nights a week that I accidentally eat goldfish crackers in bed for dinner, like that's a classic snacksident, right? Like,
Snacksident.
I mean, like that's like my life. Like I don't
Yeah.
understand. Like we're still, I mean, we're still like sort of in the pandemic, I guess, and like, but like this is the kind of thing that I
Depending who
watch
you
now.
ask. It's depending who you ask. Some
I
people will
mean,
say, "Oh no, it's gone," and then
I mean,
other
it
people
just
will be
feels like the
like,
world's on fire still. It's fine,
It's still.
but it's fine.
It's just
Um,
smoldering now. It's not. It's not a
the
full
embers,
10
right?
Yeah, it's smoldering.
Let me just
Smoldering.
grab some marshmallows real quick.
Yeah,
Maybe that's what I'll
exactly.
have for dinner instead.
Exactly.
But,
We're at
I just,
smoking level. We're not
right,
at light the coals up level where you
right,
got a roaring fire. No, we're at the smoke.
it's
That's where
fine.
we're at right now.
Everything's fine.
Yeah,
But,
everything's
I mean,
fine.
just starting last year, I haven't been able to watch anything that's
Yeah,
like nice.
I
And
can
so
dig
like this is probably like the nicest thing I've watched in a long time.
it. It's sad. That's
Well, because
really
it had
sad.
like a nice love story in it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
I don't
that's
know. I loved it. Everybody just watch it. Don't listen to
watch it and
Brian.
decide for yourself. Again, someone who is a die-in-the-wool horror fan might not like this. They might have the same reaction I did. But definitely kind of decide for yourself. I think that if you're a fan of this series already, the books, then you will totally buy into it, and you'll totally buy into the world. But again, for me though, there were more negatives than I found as positives. So that's just kind of how I was though. But you decide for yourself. You decide for yourself. With that said, let's wrap this sucker up here. Laine, where can they find you at on social medias?
You can find me on all the social medias at _Lady Laine _.
Awesome. You can find me at Brian Content. I also run our main podcast, the Cinema Psycho Show, at psychoshow.com or Psycho Show wherever you look on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. You can also find us, especially on the Epicast Network, epicastnetwork.com. If you have a favorite TV show, if you have a favorite movie that's only on streaming, and you want to let us know about it, or let us know about a question, maybe you're like, fuck you, Brian. Fear Street is awesome.
Wait, could I have just said that? No, just kidding.
No, yeah.
I would never say fuck you, Brian.
Yeah. You can contact us at cinemapsychoshow.com. Also, be sure to check out our main podcast, the Cinema Psycho Show, on all the podcast platforms. Be sure to subscribe and follow us, especially on YouTube if you like From the Concession Stand. And we will see you next time.
Thank you, Robert Lawrence.